Welcome to my 2024 houseplant tour. I'm going to take you through each room and update you on the plants that I have in my plant collection. Today marks the 1-year anniversary of me starting my plant channel, so I thought it would be nice for me to record this and upload it all on the same day. This is going to be a challenge for me. I did record a video of each individual plant on a pedestal, just on a stand, and I didn't like the results of the video. So I thought I'm just going to hold each plant and talk about it, because every time I'm holding the plant, I actually remember the care and the words come out better. At least I like to think so. So let's get started. In my very first plant tour in 2023, March the 14th, I was holding this Aglaumenia. I didn't know what this plant was called at first. I just knew it as the Chinese evergreen. It doesn't look much different, and if I think I can recover the video clip and maybe just insert it on the section here so that you can see the difference in the plant. The leaf is healthier looking. I had it growing in water. I took it out of that big pot that I had it in. I chopped the mother plant and I gave it away to my cousin Alicia. And I think she has it growing. I should check up on that. But this is the top end of that plant. I had that plant for, it was 8 years, so it'll be 9 years now. And it wasn't doing anything. It was always dropping one leaf and then growing a new one. Now I actually have multiple leaves with no dry tips, no yellowing happening. So that's what was happening to the leaves. I put it into a cup. It is growing nicely in this cup. And there's some new roots in here. So I'm just keeping it in this recycled tin can at the moment. I'm going to keep it in here. This plant is actually in my bathroom. The only plant that I have in my bathroom at the moment. I have a west facing window in there, and it gives this plant enough sun that it's happy in there. I think this is the only plant that might live in there for the moment, because my bathroom is very small and I don't want to overcrowd the space. I try not to put too many plants hanging, or I don't want to feel like, I want to feel like there's a jungle, but without the jungle, if that makes any sense. Yeah, so let's move on and I'll get started. I'm going to start with this plant shelf over here. It's one of my favorites. That shelf was given to me by my mother-in-law, and it belonged to my husband's grandparents. So that shelf has some history. In that area, I have the marble, it's like an entrance table. It actually came with 2 marble posts that go side by side. I got that from my in-laws. There was also my husband's grandparents' table. And I have their pictures. They have passed away. May they rest in peace. But that's my remembrance table. Let's call it that. And here I have the shelf full of my plants. I'm going to show you each plant. I do have some trimmings on this shelf that we're going to skip those. They'll do well. I have them. I'm going to be giving them away. But yeah, I'll go through each plant and just talk a little bit about each one in detail. I had to close the curtain so I can show you. But I need the light. So, ta-da! Yeah, so it's got this yellow variegation. It is a pothos plant. I have it in some cactus mix with lots of perlite in there. It doesn't really need that kind of mixture, but that's what I do for most of my plants. I find they grow better that way. This plant, I got it from my father. He gifted this to me about 10 years ago. He knew I liked plants and I didn't have a pothos at the time. So this has been with me ever since. I have trimmed this plant back many times. I've always kept it in a smaller form just because I don't like them climbing. From experience, know that the roots can add moisture behind your walls. So I just keep it short. I am thinking of letting it maybe climb, put a trellis, or I don't want to do moss poles. Moss poles to me is just too much work to keep moist. And with my environment, I think I'd have to water them every single day. So I don't want that responsibility. I'd rather be outside in the garden gardening. Wow, 8 minutes, and I've only been through 2 plants. We got to speed this up. Talking about the pothos, it looks great. I'm going to put it back in its place. I water it only when it dries out. It does look like it needs repotting. There's only one root, so I'm just going to leave it right now. I was thinking of possibly putting all my trimmings that I have into one big pot. I'll think about that. Yeah, it grows really nicely there, and I think it adds a nice touch to this vintage marble table. Next plant, I'll do my orchid. I saved one of these orchids, which is the one that has the rounder leaves. I actually have a video of me putting it into this vessel. I like to grow my orchids in water. I find that they do better that way, for me that is. Although I have seen a woman on YouTube who grows them in pine cone or traffic cones. Those plastic traffic cones, she puts holes in them and grows them. She says that they're the happiest in that, or she has vases that she's drilled holes into. I'll look up the name and try to add her name in here somewhere, I guess. She was a YouTuber that I watched just the other day. So I'll definitely link her in because I'm going to watch her videos. She seems like she knows a lot. She had a lot of orchids in her house. The orchid is doing happy. I changed out the water. I just changed out the water. It kind of looks a little bit dirty at the moment, but I just changed out the water, change it out once a week, and you can spray the orchid fertilizer straight onto the roots. I just make sure that the crown of the plant isn't in the water, and the roots seem very happy growing in water. They actually reached to the water and started growing in there. So that's how I'm going to grow them for now. But I am going to watch more of that lady and her videos and see what she's doing because she had a lot of orchids that were flowering. And this orchid that I rescued grew a spike and flowered for me, but only gave me 3 flowers and they died off within 2 months. So I know orchid flowers can last up to 6 months. I've had an orchid that unfortunately didn't last. Unfortunately, but I know better now and I'm keeping them alive. So yeah, let's move on to the next plant. I'm not sure the name of this plant. This is gonna be a thing because I don't have tags in my plants. So there are going to be some plants in this video that I will have to add the names onto the screen. This is one of them. It grows a red flower. It hasn't grown a red flower in my care. I've had this plant for, I want to say a couple years now. It'll be 3 years now that I've had this plant. My friend Ashley, who I worked with, had a big plant like this. Funny story, she gave the plant to me in the pot that it came in. It was a huge plant, and these were the babies. And I posted it saying, "Thank you very much" on Facebook. Her mother-in-law saw it. She's the one who gifted her the plant. Her mother-in-law saw the post. Her mother-in-law got upset, and then she had reached out to me and asked me if I could kindly return the plant to her. Of course, I wasn't going to mind because it did have sentimental value to the mother-in-law, obviously, for her to say something to her. Well, why would you give the plant that I gave you away? I kept the babies that were growing next to the mother plant, and it's huge now. It's almost as big as the mother plant was when I got it. I hope it flowers for me. I haven't cracked the coat on this plant yet. I know it likes bright and direct light. I do love the leaves. It's actually one of my husband's favorite plants that I have. I did notice that this leaf here has some damage on it. I'm not sure what that is, but I did have thrips in my plant room in December. They're gone now, but I think this might have been attacked, although I don't see any bugs. Anytime I look at this plant, I don't see any thrips or anything like that. So I don't know. Does this plant have a thrip repellent that the thrips bit into it and then they were like, "No, we don't like you"? I don't know. But I'm always learning something new. Here is a staghorn fern that I got last year. I'm still trying to crack the code on this one. I'm getting a lot of dry tips on here. Not sure what's going on. I do have it in it's actually a teapot cover. I have it in the original pot. I keep a little bit of water at the bottom, like a little reservoir. The pot doesn't actually touch the bottom. It hangs on at the top with the lip of the nursery pot. So the water reservoir is basically just down below here, and the pot is just above it. I thought it would be great and add some humidity. It seems to be helping because this new one here, it looks okay to me. It doesn't have any dry tips. So I'm going to keep it in my north facing window and hopefully it will do something for me. I think it's so interesting how it has this, like the roots, the bottom there. It has like a fuzziness to it. It almost looks like a bean. I have this anthurium growing in water at the moment. It seems to be very happy. I do the same thing that I do with the orchid. I change out the water once a week. I try to. And I have the lava stones and rocks in here. The roots seem to be really liking that. They're actually growing and attaching themselves to the lava rocks. So I like that. I like to be able to look at the roots and monitor them. Something that I never thought of before. And ever since I tried that, I seem to be having more luck with orchids, plants that are more finicky. Looks like there's something wrong with this leaf. Whenever I see a leaf that looks like there's pests on it, I go into panic mode. I know I shouldn't go into panic mode because, they're just bugs and it's okay to have bugs in your plant collection from time to time. It's going to happen. So I just have to be kind to myself and just not worry so much. But this plant does look like it has something happening with it. So I'm going to go wash my hands and put this somewhere and inspect it after I'm done my tour. This is my Marble Queen pothos. I got this one the same time as my Philodendron Birkin. Wasn't very happy in the grocery store when I saw it, so I bought it. This was last year. these are the original leaves that it came with. I have chopped it back and I've actually already given some trimmings away. And so this mother plant has babies out there. I water it when the soil becomes dry. I do have it in a fancy pot or a nursery pot with drainage holes. It's a dry root and eggshells. I like to put eggshells at the bottom of the soil and in between as I plant it. It's like a slow releasing fertilizer and it adds calcium to the soil. I find pothos like it, and most of my plants are reacting really well to it, the ones that I have potted up. I think everyone should have one of these in their collection. I got this recently. This is a begonia. I don't know what kind of a begonia, but all I know is that I'm in love with the leaves. They look like angel wings. It has a new leaf coming out here. I've actually trimmed this. I've got trimmings going because I'm going to share them with a girlfriend that is moving back into her home after long 2 years of her house being repaired due to a house fire. And I thought it would be nice because she lost her plant collection to the house fire that I would replenish her house plants. I got a whole bunch of plants. I've already given her some, but I didn't want to overwhelm her in the house that she's living in right now with her family because they've got a lot going on for them. They're going to be moving back into their home that they thought they lost. And I thought it would bring some color into her house by sharing my plants with her. I'll let her pick which one she wants. She definitely is going to want something like that in her home. Look how pretty that is. I don't know if this brings me joy every single day. So that's my goal, is to bring her joy back into her new home sweet home, welcome home, return home gift, whatever you want to call it. My peace lily. This peace lily has been with me for a couple years now. I got it as a trimming that was separated from a mother plant. I think my friend Amanda gave this to me when we were working at a restaurant together. My alocasia poly, I got this last year, at the end of last year. I didn't actually put it on my YouTube channel when I purchased it. It was like a random buy. I think it was from Independent and it was on sale. So I said, why not? I love the back of the leaves. So I said, sure, add this to my collection. Recently, I checked the roots by lifting the plant out of the nursery pot just by doing, I'm going to make a mess. Just by doing that. And there are some healthy roots here. Look at that. And I found a corm when I did that. So I have that corm in my plant room inside a dessert cup and it's starting to grow. I'm really enjoying alocasias. The plan is to put some rocks at the bottom and I'll plant it in here. I've seen YouTubers grow alocasias with no drainage because they like a higher humidity. So I'm going to try that. I only water it when the soil dries out. I got this plant from my friend Pam and it was bigger, but when it caught thrips, I cut it back and I had another one that had the whiter tips. That unfortunately did not make it. It was so infested with thrips that I had no choice and it declined within like 2 days. That's how bad it was. I think that was the plant that actually gave me the thrips, but I'm not certain. Yeah, moving on to the next plant. I have this Maranta prayer plant. This was actually trimmings, which is now a plant on its own. Here's the mother plant. The mother plant was infested with thrips. It actually has new growth happening right there, and that's new. I'm not sure if I should pot that up with the mother plant or just give that away and let this one grow. Because I know that it can take over really quickly, I planted this a month ago, maybe 2 months ago, and it's a full plant now. It has lots of new growth happening. Sure, I can show you underneath this leaf. There's lots of new growth happening right there, and that's new growth right here. I love how the leaves are coming out with this dark print on them. Yeah, so I might, my Mother's Day is coming up, so I think I might just put that one in my Mother's Day gift. My mom gave me this plant, so it's funny that I'm gonna put this in my giveaway pile. My mom gave me this plant a couple years ago because the place that she was living at, it didn't like it and it was starting to die back. So she knows that I do well with plants, and she gifted this to me. I've never done well with prayer plants before, and it's funny how as soon as my mom gave me this one, it's just growing and growing happily, no brown tips, which they're known for. So if I have to say anything about this plant is I keep the soil moist. I find because they move, they close up at night, kind of like folding their hands like they're praying. And I find that because it's the plant that moves a lot, it likes the soil to be on the wetter side or moist side. I don't ever have it like drenched. Like even the top layer of the soil feels a little bit dry at the moment, and so does the mother plant, but it's heavy to the touch and there's lots of moisture there. I let it semi-dry out, but I don't let it dry out completely because I don't want to stress out the plant. I'm glad I made that decision. I will be giving that one away. Calanthea? I I think this is part of the same family because it moves, it does the same thing. They close up at night and they open during the day. I love this one. Look at this leaf. It's the size of my head. When I got this plant back in December, the leaves were like this size. And all these on top have grown in my care. Plant seems to be happy in my living room. My living room has a north and east facing window, which I'm standing in front of. And it seems to be liking the east facing window. Gets a lot of morning sun and it's very happy. The one thing that I noticed when I had it in my plant room, it was reaching towards the light and it has these little bubbles on them. So I think I was over watering it. There's a little brown spot here that when the sun or the light was hitting it, it was actually burning the leaves. So I moved it into my living room. I think it's going to be a lot happier in my living room. I'm grabbing stuff from the side of my couch right now and on my desk, just so you know. This is my alocasia stingray. His name is Henry Jr. because Henry Sr. did not survive. Henry Sr., I tried to save him from the grocery store. He was not doing so well. I found some corms in the soil when I was repotting him. So I separated the corms from the parent plant, and the corms survived. I had them growing in a cup for about a year. I recently just put them in a non-draining vessel. I added some seashells, marbles, rocks, some turquoise, some stones. I added that to the bottom to separate the soil from the water because I do expect to have some water, which from me watering it, I can just tip it over and drain that water out. But because it's fresh water, I'm just going to let it evaporate. And it seems to be doing well in front of my east facing window. This is the growth before when I had it on the north facing window, and this is the new growth now. It's reaching up right the way that I see them on photos, in photos. So that's the goal with this one, is to keep growing it out. It is still, I want to say juvenile. It's still a baby plant. These leaves can get massive. I love the variegation on the petioles. Looks like the Alocasia sabrina petioles. So that gives me enough joy that that's one of the alocasias I will always keep in my collection. Here is my philodendron Brazil. Actually looks like a lemon lime, but you can see this tiny little leaf right here. It is so small. This plant has seen better days. I tried to save it from the grocery store. Now I think I need to save it for myself. I downsized the pot because there's very little roots. This did catch thrips, so it does have some damage on the new leaf. But the newer leaves are so tiny. I'm not sure what's happening here, but I added some extra humidity by putting it into a flower vase, and it seems to be liking that. I used to have this in my bathroom. That's where I had the plants with thrips. Seemed to be a good spot to quarantine them. But yeah, don't think I'll ever get another one unless it's gifted to me, just because the history with this one, unfortunately. I hope it survives. If it survives, if I can show you this plant next year and it's full, great. I think I forgot a plant on my shelf, my African violet. I'll show you that next. First, let's show you this one, my philodendron Florida green. I love this plant. It does look a little dusty right now. Clean it. I think it looks like a moose. Here are the antlers and the snout. So I'm going to call it Rocky. Rocky and Balboa. Is it Rocky and Balboa? I don't know. I don't know what I'm talking about. I love the shape of these leaves. This is how the plant looked like when it was in the store. I had to chop back a lot of the leaves that were on the vine because they looked bad. And I think it was due to watering. And it was really cold in the store. It was Home Depot. They originally had this plant for $60, and there's no way I'm going to pay $60. And I just walked by it, and then I went there another day, and it was on sale for $12 because it looked so sad. And I said, okay, you know what? $12 because of the way this was the only leaf that convinced me that I can save it. I looked at the soil and I thought, okay, let's take you home. I still have it in the original nursery pot, and I watered it today, but you could see the roots growing from the bottom. I'm going to have to definitely take care of that really soon. Maybe chop up the plant here and get rid of this top note, or probably try to propagate that top note. This is new growth right here. There is a new leaf happening. And then I also have another new growth point here. So I do believe that the plant is going to bounce back. I love that when I was trimming the damaged leaves, kind of smells like a banana. I really like the smell of this plant. There are some water drops on it. I forget what it's called. It's like a sap, sticky stuff. There is a name for it. I just can't think of it right now, of course. I'm sure I'll think of it when I'm editing this video. African violet. I'm going to have to cut a lot of stuff out. I don't know if I can upload this today. I'm going to try. My African violet, I have owned one of these before, and they are So cute. I love the little flowers. Look how cute they are. A little yellow on the inside. There are some new buds growing, but I'm noticing that some petioles are getting mushy. Does that mean that I'm overwatering it? I like the fuzziness. It's got like a peach fuzz, kind of like me. Yeah, it has a little peach fuzz. I like that. It's very pretty. I did some research when I got this plant, or before I got this plant. They do like a higher humidity. I do have it in the original pot. I love the back of the leaves, the color of it. Yeah, they have shallow roots. They've got shallow roots, so I know what I did wrong in the past. I planted them in a big pot thinking that they would grow more, and no, that's not the case with the African violet. You want to repot them. You want to give them fresh soil every couple years is what I've learned. Bright indirect light. So I think they'll be happy in my north facing window. And I have it in a nice fancy pot with no drainage so that I can keep some water down below. Give it an extra humidity. The pot that it's in, it has no holes, but it's in a pot with holes, if that makes any sense. So that way I'm not overwatering it. So that's my solution for the African violet. I hope that you survive. Yeah. I think that's all the plants in my living room. Oh no, my philodendron Birkin. I actually separated the pups that were growing down below. So here is my mother plant, the philodendron Birkin. I love these leaves. They have a leather feel to them, like a thick texture to them. It's got always working on a new leaf. It's always giving me new growth. And I love the way they come in so white and stripy. And then eventually they just look dark like that, which is okay with me. I still like the white on green, and it's kind of has like a neon look to it too, like a yellowish look. I'm not sure if you could pick that up on the camera, but here's one of her babies. And I've got two more that are very tiny. I put them into a glass terrarium kind of type of thing. Snake plant. My snake plant sits in my front door, like 3 feet away from my front door. Front door has a window facing east. It seems to be happy there. I did struggle with this plant underwatering. Yeah, I underwatered it. I had a lot of babies that I started from leaves. There's two kinds of snake plants in here. I actually got two other snake plants recently. Did a plant swap. I'll show you them. They're in my plant room at the moment. But this plant here was repotted. I downsized it into a smaller pot because they like to be root bound. And when I was taking it out of the old pot, the roots were really brown and dry that they weren't drinking any water. So I had to actually soak this plant and get the root system going a little bit before letting the soil dry out. And now I'm letting it dry out a little bit in between waterings. It seems to be happy, but I'm still getting some wrinkly leaves here, which tell me that it's not happy. Oh, I think that's this leaf here that I'm holding is this pup here. So I might just leave it because the pup looks okay. I think the mother leaf where that grew from is probably going to die out. I'm not very good with snake plants. Mother-in-law's tongue. There is a scientific name. Not very good with them. I don't know why. Probably because I overwatered them, which is probably why I underwatered this one because I just stopped watering it and said to myself, fine, you don't want water? Cannot give you any. And then that happened. So be thoughtful with your snake plants or any other plants. If the roots aren't happy, then the plant's not happy. I'm still learning. We all are. I also have this English ivy. It's just a trimming. It really is just a trimming. I know that this is invasive. I actually planted into my garden last year. I don't think it's going to grow back this year, but if it does, then I'm in trouble. This is just a trimming from it. So I don't know if I want to include this as a plant, but I just thought I'll share. I have an English ivy. Maybe next year that will be a full plant if I keep it. We're going to move on to my dining room, but first I got to fix the lighting and everything. Those are the plants that I'm going to cover with you, just so you see how they sit in their natural position. The money tree is there only, or the lemon tree is only there temporarily because that goes outside. My lemon tree, I trimmed it in the spring. Well, spring now. I trimmed it, I want to say a month ago now. And it's giving me new growth at the top. The whole idea was to trim it so that the branches grow out, giving it more fruit. That plant lives in the house in the winter, and then it goes outside in the summer. This is a south-facing window. That in front of me is an east-facing window. So my plant that sits on the table, the aloe vera plant, does very well in this location. Ever since I seen this growing naturally in San Miguel, that's where I'm from. I went to go visit my family back in 2018, and I was finding aloe veras growing wild along the streets. And that's how they grow. They grow wild, crowded together in one space. Now, these are pups from one other plant that I separated and planted them individually into this space, and they've just started growing like crazy, and they seem to be very happy here. So I have them sitting in a fruit bowl with a plate because this has drainage. It's a terracotta pot. I find that they do better with they have shallow root systems, so I find that they do better with shallow pots, allowing the pot to dry out much quicker, giving the plant more water. I just go to the bottom leaf and I do the taco method where I touch the leaf. It feels firm, so if it feels firm, I leave it. If they start to feel soft at the bottom, then it means they need water. And touching the soil right now, it still feels wet from the other day. I've been soaking her more now that the warm weather is here. I'm giving her more water. In the wintertime, I was watering this plant maybe once every other month. I was making sure that the leaves were always full, but if I felt that they were getting soft, I would give it a little bit of a drink right near the base of the plant to make sure that the roots, so not soaking the whole pot, but just a little spray for each plant, and it seemed to work well. I water this more than I do any other cactus. The Thanksgiving cactus comes from a rainforest. They're native to Brazil, and they like their soil a little bit more on the wet side. They are like a succulent, so they do hold water, but it is a rainforest cactus. They're found naturally growing, climbing trees in the rainforest, which they always have a canopy. So you don't want to give this bright light. If you give this a south-facing window and it gets direct sun, it will burn the leaves. I got this plant not too long ago. I got to stop buying plants from grocery stores. The only reason why I bought it was because it was cheap, $2, and I said, why not? I have cut it recently because the top piece was starting to wrinkle and get mushy on me. Like, I don't know if you can pick that up, but yeah, it seems to be perky. These leaves seem to be okay, but the other branches were drooping down. I don't know if I'm overwatering this, but it's in a 4-inch pot. I haven't repotted it. Probably should look at the roots. I'll look at the roots because I really want this umbrella plant. That's what I call it. The umbrella plant. Really want one in my care, but every time I get one, it dies on me or I kill it. I'm keeping it near the Thanksgiving cactus, which is away from the south facing window, but still getting some light. I'm trying to see if I can dry out the soil quicker. I'm in love with this plant. This is my fiddle leaf fig. I got it last summer. It has 3 main branches on it. It's giving me growth. It was in my plant room, and I decided that it doesn't need to be in my plant room. I'm trying to make room for all the seedlings that I have growing that will be going outside, and I need the grow lights for the seedlings to grow nice and strong. So I put this into my dining room in this corner here. It gets morning sun and afternoon sun. You can see it's 12 o'clock in the afternoon. The sun is starting to come out on the south side. In the morning, the sun is facing from the window right on top of my table where the aloe vera sits. Yeah, gather my thoughts. 10-inch heavy pot. So I'm going to try to get through this one quickly so I can get to the other plants. This is my favorite cacti. I got this plant. I was living in an apartment next to my best friend Melissa. We had an oasis, a shared oasis in our backyard, which was like a laneway garbage area, and we just turned it into somewhere nice. And this is where I got that plant. I got it from my neighbor. It's a cactus. I know that. I just don't know the name of the cactus. So it's been with me from Toronto to 2 apartments and then my home up north here. It seems to be growing much better. I had it in a different pot. I had it in a 4-inch terracotta pot, and a friend of mine told me that if I plant it in a bigger pot, that it'll grow much bigger and faster. And since I did that, you can see the skinniness down at the bottom. That was in Toronto growth. And then I came up here, up north, Ontario, and all this new growth. So I think the oxygen is better up here, and it is definitely loving life in a big terracotta pot. Big terracotta pot. Huge. So I'm going to keep growing it this way. I don't water it at all in the winter. I did not water it. I'm going to put it down because it's heavy. I did not water it in the winter time. I let the soil completely dry out. Only recently did I move it back into its place, which is the south-facing window. It gets direct sun, and only now I've given it one drink where I let it soak up water. The whole pot soaked up water. It was really heavy. I had to actually let it dry out a bit before moving it down here. And since I've done that, it's ready for another drink. It's starting to grow. So I'm doing something right. I can show you a picture of what it looked like here. So I found a picture the other day of what it looked like before I had repotted it in there. And you can see the difference of how quickly it expanded and got bigger. My dragon fruit cactus. I love this cactus. I've shared it with my mother-in-law. Lots of my aunts have gotten it. I like this little potting combination. It looks like a little old man. This is a trimming from the mother plant that I gave to my mother-in-law. Her plant is so big that she wants me to help her repot it. They're not spiky. I like this plant because it is soft to the touch. Well, the spikes are soft. They don't stick in. This one is the one that's soft to the touch, the ripsalis. My husband had bought a plant like this for me, and unfortunately, the mother plant died. But I had given a whole bunch of trimmings away to some friends and family, and then I went to go visit my friend Jen, and she said she had one and let me take some trimmings. So now it's growing in my care. Now I have a little plant started. So happy about that. This next cactus, you want to be careful with. The pear cactus. When you touch this cactus, the needles will stay in your fingers. You have to remove them with a tweezer, and it's not fun. I've actually had some staying in my fingers, and every time you chop something or wash your hands, you feel it. So I don't like to play with this plant very often. I put it into a non-draining pot. There is some rocks and sand at the bottom of here, and some cactus mix. Seems to be loving life. I did have this trimming laying down flat, and the roots started to grow all down. So I ended up potting it like this. And as I predicted that they're going to start growing in each section, I guess these would be similar to nodes. But yeah, starting to grow in each little dot. I think these will grow too eventually. Last but not least on this table is my false shamrock. I have two false shamrocks together. This plant was given to me by my mom. The first one was the purple variegated one. She had this growing and gave me a clipping. 15 years ago now. This plant has gone around. I got it for my mom. I gave some to my friends. Seems like to be the pattern. Although my mom doesn't have very much plants into her collection, she does have some really nice ones that I like. So I thought I'm just going to plant these up together because they do like the same care, and I think it looks so pretty together. South-facing window. These babies love lots of sun. I find the darker the leaves, or I find purple plants like direct sun. That's what I'm noticing. I'll show you the one that's in my south kitchen window. It's a wandering Jew, and the purple is so dark that it almost looks black. We are not done. So I know I don't have plants hanging everywhere, but I do have plants throughout the place. I find the best spots for them, and I just leave them there and let them grow into the space. I don't like to overcrowd my plants. I find that they do better when they have a space to grow. Yeah. Oh, I looked up and I found a plant. I got this plant recently as well. It is sitting above my south-facing window. It doesn't get the direct sunlight, but it does get bright light. So my plan is it's already happening. It's starting to grow towards the east side, the east-facing window. And my plan is to have it grow down and wild. Now we can move on to the plants that are on my china cabinet. So that's my front door, and that faces east. And behind me is the south-facing window. So they get quite a bit of light, I have to say. Look at the shadow of it right now. But the reason why I say that is because when I look at my Easter cactus, the new growth comes in red, and I'll show that to you shortly. My Easter cactus, I'm not sure if it's an Easter cactus or if it's a Christmas cactus because it does look scalloped. Some leaves look scalloped, round at the top, but then there's some, like that one there looks scalloped, right? That looks like round right here. That looks round. That looks round. But then I have this growth here that kind of looks like a Christmas tree. And they say that the Christmas cactus has like this Christmas tree look to it. So I'm not sure, but either or, I like this cacti. It is pretty much the same care for as a Thanksgiving cactus. I give it a little bit more water. And I noticed recently that misting it, they really like it because the leaves are starting to get really soft and dry. And once I started to mist it, I noticed that they perked up a little bit more and they started to go upright more so than leaning, flopping over. This is the sun stress that I was mentioning. If you can see and pick that up in this video, kind of sun stressed. They come in dark burgundy and then they turn green. So I do believe that this spot here is enough light for this type of cactus. My fishbone cacti. I got this as a trimming. It started with these 3 leaves at the bottom here, and then it started to grow all of these new leaves, or I don't know what you would call them, petioles. Petioles, because they do flower, I guess, but they also climb in the rainforest. So this cactus, I noticed, start to lose the water in the leaves, I guess. And I water it more often than a desert cactus. The desert cactus, I find, can go months without watering. I love this stone that I have on it. It actually has a rock, heart shape to it. Hearts follow me around. Even my cat Maverick has a heart spot. And the last plant on my china cabinet is this pink jasmine that I got recently. I keep the soil moist. Looks like there's some mold growing. Gonna have to take care of that. It's still in its nursery pot. I got it for Valentine's Day. It was my funniest Valentine's Day with my hubby, our first date, and he decided to get me a pink jasmine. I do have a pink jasmine upstairs, but I don't think he knows that. So I know when he watches this video, he's gonna find out. But I do have another pink jasmine. So that's my kitchen windowsill. We'll show you that now. I have a few trimmings of this going. 1, 2, 3, 4 to be exact, because I have one upstairs. This is the mother plant. I was actually thinking of rehoming this mother plant, but it's been through a lot with me. I keep trimming it. I keep the soil moist. I do let it dry out a little bit in between waterings, but this is a succulent, I believe, Transcantia purpling wandering Jew. And it has this fuzziness, like a peach fuzz. Sitting in a south-facing window gives it this really dark purple leaves. I just cut it in the node sections and new plants start growing like crazy. I have a lot of new growth starting from the bottom here. I am considering chopping it back again, but I have so many plants of this growing that I think I'm just going to let this keep on growing and creeping and crawling, because I think that's what it does. It keeps reaching for whichever direction the sun is in, so I turn it every so often. I have this lucky rooster. It's a Portuguese thing. Yeah, it's a lucky rooster. You either have one in your kitchen or your living room space. Also has a heart on it. I got that in Portugal when I was visiting. Here is my staghorn fern. I love this plant. My staghorn fern sits in a terrarium. It is always wet. It adds good humidity being in here. there is a hole here, so I actually drain the excess water. I keep this above my kitchen sink. It gets full bright light, but it doesn't get direct. It's kind of like the other plant that I have in my dining room south facing window. It is getting bright light, but the sun rays do not touch the leaves. If they were to touch the leaves, it dries out like that. I love the fuzziness and texture of this. It's got a little peach fuzz to it. Seems to be the thing. I like plants with peach fuzz. Lots of new growth happening. I had this on my wish list last year and I got it. I was caring for one for plant sitting for a lady who was out of town, a friend of mine actually now. And when I was caring for hers was growing really well. And I decided to get one because I saw it at a grocery store. I've been getting a lot of plants at grocery stores. That's where we get our plants up here mostly. There are nurseries. I work for one, but they don't have this kind of selection. Yeah, my nursery's more into the nursery that I work for is more into perennials. Although recently I went to go visit and I did see a whole bunch of euphorbias and rat tail or donkey tail. Rat tail cactus? Monkey tail cactus. I want one of those. I'm trying to grow my cacti collection. I think that's it for my kitchen dining room. I don't keep any plants in my bedroom or in my dressing room because I only have one window in there and it faces north. And it seems to be the coldest room in the house, probably because it doesn't get sun. There is one more plant facing my west facing window. Yeah, not much to say about this plant. I did get it as a trimming. The roots grew so quickly that I had repotted it into this terracotta pot. Should be a crouton. Yeah, but there's no color to the leaves. Some of the leaves feel soft to the touch. I'm not sure what I'm doing wrong with this plant. I do know that it caught thrips. It was much bigger than this, and then my husband dropped his jacket on it, broke it in half. Ironically, he broke it right where the note is because I didn't trim it yet. You can still see the piece there that the jacket fell on. But I did cut above each node, hoping that it would stimulate some growth, and it has. So I just sliced it with a knife just above the node, and that new growth point happened. Yeah, the only thing that's exciting about this plant at the moment is the little decoration I have in it, the wolf. Ow! I think I'm ready to move on upstairs. Yeah, upstairs, okay. Let's move on to upstairs. Okay, I got my plants in order that I want to share with you. I'll start with the new ones that I got. They're snake plants. I really like this plant. I have seen it before. I've just never cared for one before. And now I'm actually really starting to take more interest in snake plants. This one here has new growth happening. It's only been in my care for less than a week. I don't know the name of that one now, so if you know the name, then share it with me. I'm definitely going to take a picture and try to Google it. Dragon fingers snake plant. I'm really excited to see this grow. I was actually considering doing a whole succulent planter where I have these all planted together. Not sure if I'll do it with this one here, but I think the dragon fingers would look nice. I know these plants grow a little bit slower, so it would be nice to have them in a nice arrangement, kind of like this. Maybe have them sticking up in the background. Here is a succulent that I keep propagating. I don't know the names off the top of my head. I think this is the jewel succulent, and these are rosettes. So my plan is to have them looking like a tree so that you can still see the landscape that I created. It has some rocks elevated, and then you have Smurfette from the Smurfs. Created a little village for her. I don't know that it's the right one, but I think the Smurfettes live in a forest with mushrooms. My string of pearls has been awesome. I usually have this in my south-facing window in my kitchen sill, but ever since I started growing succulents underneath grow lights in the wintertime, I've been just popping and making new string of pearls with all these different containers that I have, and I'll show that to you at the end of the video. I'll give you a glance of what my trimmings look like. I hope it works out well. I might have to turn off the lights, but I only water this when the soil becomes completely dried out. And the leaves, I recently learned this. I'll share that with you. I'll share a tip with you. The leaves have a little window. I'm going to try and see if I can. The leaves have this little window. It looks like a slit in the pearl. And when that closes, time for a drink. How happy this string of pearls is. I just keep putting the vines on the soil. I stopped doing it because it's full, but I wanted to fill the area of the soil on top first, and then I let it start to crawl down. Yeah, seems to be very happy in my care. Okay. String of turtles. This was given to me by a coworker of mine. She had given it to me with a, well, what was it? A philodendron, like a regular philodendron. It was just green and with string of turtles at the bottom. The philodendron died off on me. I had to repot the string of turtles. It was in a non-drainage teacup and it wasn't very happy, so I repotted into a little cup. I put a drainage hole at the bottom. I did put the rocks or the stones that she gifted to me. And look at that. They're so cute. Those are all new. So I have them in a recycling. I just have them in a recycling can covered with a sock. I don't actually know the succulents from the top of my head, but I have this one here it's a rosette that I planted into a seashell. And I really like this plant arrangement. This is a terracotta pot that was painted. I found this on the side of the road. I stopped on the side.
Well, my batteries for the mic died, and the last of the video that I prepared, you see my mouth moving, but there's no words coming out. There are, I just can't hear me. I think I'm just gonna skip that whole ending. It was me sharing my plants that I have in my plant room, and I can do that with you right now. This is the money tree that I used to have in one of my office. I'm gonna turn the camera around. I'm gonna turn the camera around. Okay, let's start this again. Well, wah, wah, wah. I need to learn to know where to look when I'm talking to the camera. Thank you for following along. Thank you for putting up with me. I have different energy levels right now. I find that I'm all over the place at the moment. I think the longer days is giving me a little boost of energy. So I'm not finishing my thoughts, my words. Yeah, I'm going through a little bit of rearranging at the moment. My grow room is a disaster once again. I'm trying to organize myself because spring is here and everything is just happening so quickly. I will still show you just a little ending of this video. I'll just show you a little clip of the plants that are in my grow room. They are always changing in my grow room because I'm always putting them where they're happiest and where they're thriving so that I see my plants growing. Once I see, that's why I called myself the pollinator. Kind of like a plant whisperer, where I pay attention to how the plants look, how they're growing, and I try to keep them thriving so that they're growing and not just surviving. I'm learning lots, and I know we're always learning. So yeah, I'm gonna take you through the rest of my plants in here and end this video. I am getting rid of a lot of plants. So I might share, I will share some photos of plants that I've been posting up for auction. And it's just on my local dollar auction. It starts at $1 and people can bid. So I like sharing my plants that way. I'm trying to organize my plant room so that I can start growing. I actually went to I went to that store, that unboxed store, and I picked myself up a new grow light. This grow light is quite interesting. I'm gonna turn the camera around. I'll put the camera down. I'm doing this with one hand. Don't know how. Ah, not gonna work. You're crooked. But yes, I found this plant light that you can adjust. 60 watts. So I can adjust it to whichever corner of the room it hangs. It has the connector here and it hangs like that. It came with the hanging, and so you can hang it from the ceiling and put the light in the position that you want it. And I think this is going to be really helpful when I'm starting my seeds. We have a shorter season here in Ontario, so it's very helpful if you start your garden seeds now and then plant them outside. I just put them out slowly day by day, getting them used to the sun. So I'll start with a shady spot first. I'll put the seedlings out for a couple hours one day, and then the next day I'll do it for 4 hours, and so on and so forth. They seem to like it that way, and I slowly introduce them to more and more sun depending the requirements. Yeah, that's a separate video. I will be doing a plant tour for my outdoor gardens and go through each plant that I've planted. I actually planted a lot last year that I saved from the debris pile. Yeah, so I'm gonna end this video. Thank you for watching. I'll just do a less than a minute tour of my messy plant room. Here is the Hoya tray that I keep my Hoyas on. I'll be doing a separate video for that. They're growing really nice and strong. Then my mother succulent plants. It's kind of like an aerial view. I created that terrarium for my 5-year-old niece. It's got string of turtles in it and anthurium red flower. There's my string of turtles. My propagation leaves. And on this table here, I'm going to keep the plants that I'm rehoming or giving them away. There is my fish tank Hoya bowl. I'm in love with this setup. I will definitely keep my smaller Hoyas in a setup like this and replant the bigger ones. my jasmine plant, my other jasmine plant, I have it climbing up a string that leads to the ceiling. There's a hook. My money tree, I'm watering some plants right now. I've got to let go of some of that water. I just throw it out the window. My angel trumpet, I'm not going to go over my outdoor plants because I will be doing an outdoor tour. My palm sago, I'm going to put these, that's my pothos. I actually brought it up last night after editing the video. And I'm going to put them together. Just some tools that I need. My Cavendish banana plant is back in my grow room. It does look like the time I rescued it back a year ago. That's what the plant looked like a year ago when I rescued it. It had thrips. It's recovering now. Those are all the teacups and pots that I'm going to be using for the new leaf succulents that are growing. I was actually considering turning this candle holder into a string of pearls planter. I think that would look really pretty. It has this matching vase with holes on it. I don't know what it would be used for. I was thinking incense. My Monastera de Silosa. She also had thrips and now is recovering. And then, oh, those are outdoor. Oh, my lucky bamboo. And my corn plant. That's kind of outdoor because I bring it out. And then I've got a whole bunch of pots that I'm getting ready. My seeds. My husband just bought me a whole load of seeds. So I definitely have to get this started because spring is here. Yeah. This was not as easy as I thought it was going to be. It was definitely more challenging than I expected it. Just like interruptions, Maverick scratching at the door. Always room for improvements, but I want to thank you. Thank you for subscribing, for liking and commenting on my videos. Please share with me your thoughts or any growing tips, or if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. I am new to this. I'm new to this, and I started it so that I can improve my plant care, and I believe that I'm achieving that with documenting my plant growth and whatever. It's really hard finding the words to end this video. My cats keep wanting to go in and out, so maybe this isn't the best spot for me to film. Sorry. See? I just stepped on him. Are you okay? I stepped on your tail. I'm so sorry. Oh, my poor baby. Oh, you want a treat? Okay, Mama, we'll give you a treat. Okay, hold on. You want a treat? Okay. Yeah. For you? I just totally stepped on my cat's tail. Okay,